May 14th, 1983, 1:17 in the morning. Interstate 5, just outside Mission Viejo, California. Two highway patrol officers flag down a 1979 Toyota Celica that has been weaving over the shoulder line for several miles. They expect a drunk driver. The second one of their shift. Routine. The driver, a thin mustached man in his late 30s, steps out fast and walks straight back toward the cruiser. Sergeant Michael Harrow and Officer Michael Stearns exchange a look. Veteran cops know what that means. The man is hiding something inside. There is a beer cooler packed with imported lager on the floor, a folded buck knife on the driver's seat, a passenger slumped against the window, motionless, a black jacket draped across his lap. Harrow knocks on the glass, no response. He bangs harder. Nothing. He unlocks the door, reaches in and feels for a pulse. The wrist is already cold. The dead man is a 25-year-old Marine corporal named Tyler Brennan. His hands are bound behind his back with his own shoelaces. His own belt has been pulled tight around his neck. He has been dead for less than an hour. The man now sitting handcuffed in the back of the cruiser is Daniel Vance Hollis, computer programmer, homeowner, Air Force veteran. The kind of soft-spoken professional his neighbors describe as quiet, gentle, good with kids. By night, he's been killing for 12 years. 6 different police departments have been chasing his shadow. 2 other men have already been arrested and crowned with his name. And what comes out of the trunk of that Toyota will rewrite the history of American serial murder. How does a mild-mannered computer analyst hunt freely along 1,000 miles of coastline for over a decade? And what is written on the yellow legal pad in his briefcase that prosecutors will eventually call the longest kill list ever recovered in the United States? Daniel Hollis is 30 years old on New Year's Eve, 1975. He runs payroll programs for a Long Beach and aircraft firm. Punctual, neat, trusted with his own building key. He has just been outed to his Presbyterian family as gay. The party that year is held at his parents' house, not his apartment. He arrives a little after 10, plays cards with his nieces and nephews, sips 1 quiet glass of champagne at midnight, and is gone by 1:30. His sister finds him asleep on the family couch the next morning, still in the same clothes from the night before. A perfect alibi, because at the same time he is toasting his nephews, a young man named Mark Whitcomb is living through the final hours of an unimaginable death 30 miles away. Whitcomb had been drinking at a party in San Juan Capistrano. He passed out on a sofa. By midnight, he was gone. He is found 3 days later, naked, tied to a small tree in the fetal position. The killer has burned his eyes and his genitals with a cigarette lighter, carved grooves into his skin almost to the bone, castrated him while still alive, and packed dirt down his throat until he choked. Whitcomb is somewhere between victim 30 and 40 in a series of murders no one in California law enforcement has yet connected. Daniel Hollis drives back to his apartment Sunday evening, showers, walks the dog, on time for work Monday. The man killing young men by the dozens is also the kind of man who arrives late to a family party and apologizes for it. That contradiction is his armor. He enlisted in the Air Force in 1968 and was discharged the next year for being gay. He drifted through odd jobs before falling in love with computers. Night classes turned him into one of the most reliable mainframe programmers in the region. He also started disappearing on weekends. His partner at the time, a man named Jeff Grant, never asked too many questions. They had an open relationship. When Jeff would leave to find someone else for the night, Daniel would tell him he was going driving. That was when the bodies began to appear. Where did the impulse begin? And how many young men were already dead before anyone realized one quiet man was responsible? The first confirmed body lands in October 1971. Warren Decker, a 30-year-old bartender from Long Beach, found in a ravine off a remote 2-lane highway. Naked, decomposed, dumped from a vehicle. The coroner writes alcohol poisoning on the death certificate. The case closes within weeks. By 1973, the pattern has fingerprints all over it. Edward Davis Moss, John Doe 16, John Doe 52, John Doe Huntington Beach. All male, all young, and all drugged with Valium, all sodomized. Most with a sock or stocking jammed into the rectum. Most with deep ligature marks on the neck. some castrated while still alive, a few dismembered, hands sawed off, and never recovered. Then comes Ronnie Walsh in July 1973, 20 years old, married, definitely not gay. His body shows the same signature, strangled, bound, sock in the anus. But the victim shatters the assumption every investigator had been working from. They had been looking for a gay killer hunting gay men. Now hitchhikers, Marines, and stranded motorists are all targets too. Between 1972 and 1975, 11 young men die this way across Seal Beach, Long Beach, Irvine, San Bernardino, and the Salton Sea. Bodies dumped on freeway shoulders, in canyons, in ice plants. What the detectives do not yet realize is that two other predators are working the same coastline at the same time. Patrick Kennard, the so-called trash bag murderer, is shooting young men and stuffing them into garbage bags near the Mexican border. William Boone is strangling teenage boys with their own t-shirts in the back of his van. 3 serial killers. 1 stretch of highway. Almost identical body counts. The bodies blur together. The press hands them all to one name: the Freeway Killer. By 1976, the FBI is flying in forensic psychologists. Estimates climb from 20 victims to 40. Investigators admit they have lost count. Daniel Hollis, meanwhile, gets promoted. He picks up a salaried role as a data processing consultant. He buys a house with his new partner, Jeff Selden, in a quiet Long Beach neighborhood. He trades his Mustang for a new Toyota Celica. He begins to travel for work: Oregon, Michigan, the Bay Area. Every business trip seems to end with another young man found dead along Interstate 5. How many killers were really hunting the California coast in the late 70s? And what happens when the wrong man becomes famous for someone else's crimes? July 1st, 1907. A pair of lovers named Patrick Kennard and David Holt walk into the Riverside County Sheriff's Office and point at the wanted poster of themselves. Kennard confesses to a long string of killings. He leads investigators to the buried bodies one by one. The task force celebrates. The Freeway Killer is in custody. Then the bodies start showing up again. Scott Mitchell Hayes, 18-year-old Marine, found dumped on the 91 freeway in April 1978. Strangled, drugged with Valium, left testicles surgically removed after death. The same MO, the same details. Kennard has been in San Quentin for 7 weeks. Roland Yates, Keith Kirkland. The killings continue through 1979 across Southern California. Then on June 11, 1980, William Boone is pulled over with a near victim in the back of his van. He confesses to dozens of killings. The newspapers crown him the Freeway Killer. A gay activist group puts up a $50,000 reward for his conviction. A supermarket chain adds $30,000 more. Daniel Hollis hears the news from a hotel in Oregon. He is there on a business trip, setting up data systems for a client. Jeff Selden calls to tell him the streets are safer. Daniel thanks him and goes back to work. A few weeks later, a Marine named Robert Langston is found stuffed inside a green plastic trash bag in a Lake Forest gutter, folded into a ball like a newborn. The coroner files it as an accident. It will be reclassified as a homicide 3 years later. Detective Jim Sidwell knows Boone is not the only one. The MO does not quite match. The geography does not quite match. He begins building a parallel file, a third Freeway Killer, still operating, still untouched. What Sidwell does not yet know is how close they had already come. In 1970, a 13-year-old runaway named Joey Farrell had woken up in a Belmont Shore apartment after being drugged and raped. He pointed police to the door. Officers walked in without a warrant and found prescription pill bottles, gay pornography, and photographs of one man, Daniel Hollis. The evidence was tossed on a procedural technicality. The file was buried for 13 years. In May 1975, Long Beach detectives interviewed Hollis about a missing teenager whose head had been found floating off the marina jetty. Hollis gave a calm, plausible story. His partner, Jeff Grant, corroborated it. The DA refused to charge him. No body, no case. Twice the system had Daniel Hollis in its hands. Twice it let him walk. There would not be a third time. May 14, 1983, just after midnight, Sergeant Michael Harrow and Officer Michael Stearns are working the deuce shift on Interstate 5, the prime window for drunk drivers. Stearns' regular partner is on leave. If he weren't, neither of them would be on this stretch of highway tonight. They spot the Toyota Celica weaving over the shoulder line and switch on the cruiser lights. The car slows but does not pull over. They flash the high beams. They put the public address system on. The driver finally parks against a guardrail. He steps out immediately and walks back fast toward the cruiser. Stearns has made nearly 5,000 drunk driving arrests in 3 years on this beat. He knows what it means when they get out fast. It means there is something inside they do not want you to see. Daniel Hollis is polite. He admits to 3 or 4 drinks. He passes the first sobriety test. He fails the second. Stearns cuffs him. Harrow walks to the passenger side. There is a young man slumped against the window. He looks asleep. Harrow taps the glass. Nothing. He bangs harder. Nothing. He walks around, unlocks the door from the driver's side, and reaches across to feel for a pulse. The wrist is cold. He lifts the black jacket draped across the passenger's lap. The pants are unbuttoned and pulled high in a way that is almost staged. The shoes have been removed and tucked neatly under the seat. The hands are bound behind the back with the shoelaces from those same shoes. Fresh ligature marks on the wrists. Deep red rings around the neck, made by the tightening and loosening of the passenger's own belt. His name is Tyler Brennan, 25, Marine Corporal stationed at the nearby air base. Earlier that night, he had hitchhiked into town to drink with friends. He had accepted a ride home from a stranger. The paramedics arrive in 4 minutes. They drag Brennan out onto the asphalt and shock his chest with the paddles. His body jolts off the pavement with every charge. His pupils never move. They load him into the ambulance and pump his chest for the entire 10-minute ride to the community hospital. At 2:19 in the morning, the on-duty physician calls time of death. Back in the cruiser, Daniel Hollis sits quietly in the back seat. Stearns sits in front, service revolver across his lap. He is remembering a sergeant from his orientation briefing months earlier, warning that bodies were being found on Orange County highways, that a serial killer was still loose. Then Daniel leans forward and asks calmly how his friend is doing. That is the moment Stearns realizes the man behind him is not a drunk driver. The Toyota Celica is impounded that morning. Detective Jim Sidwell gets the phone call just after sunrise. By afternoon, he is standing over the open trunk. Under the driver's floor mat, a manila envelope. Inside, 47 photographs of young men. Some smiling, some plainly drugged, some, very plainly, dead. One image shows a naked young man draped across a floral-patterned couch. The same couch the search team will haul out of Daniel's house the next day. In the briefcase in the trunk, a yellow legal pad torn from its binder. Block printed in pencil, 61 entries arranged in 2 neat columns. Stable, Angel, Harikari, EDM, GR2, Portland, Portland, Denver, Portland, Hawaii, 2 in 1 hitch. At first glance, it looks like a scavenger hunt. Daniel will later tell investigators it is just a list of nicknames for friends in the gay community. Sidwell knows immediately what it is. Each entry is a memory of a victim. EDM is Edward Davis Moss. GR2 is 2 college students from Grand Rapids, killed on the same night Daniel met them at a hotel bar in December 1982. Portland, Denver is Michael Olson, hitchhiking the Oregon coast in 19. Prosecutor Brian Briggs will eventually start calling the document the scorecard. The name will stick. 6 years of detective work will match 41 of the 61 entries to 41 murders across California, Oregon, and Michigan. 20 entries will never be matched at all. The search of Daniel's house uncovers the trophies, a shaving kit with the name Mike Crane etched on it, a jacket belonging to a Michigan farmer named Chris Schroeder, an electric shaver in the case it had been given to a teenager named Eric Chase, a tote bag and nunchakas from an Oregon man named Lance Tate, couches stained with blood that was not Daniel's own. Jeff Selden returns home from a candy convention to find his front lawn behind police tape. He tells his counselor that night he can hardly stand it. He insists Daniel is a good person. Years later, after he has cut off all contact, he will describe himself in interviews as the only living victim of the Freeway Killer. Daniel Hollis's trial begins in 1908. It runs for 13 months. It costs the state $10 million. It is the longest and most expensive criminal trial in Orange County history at the time. In 1989, he is convicted of 16 counts of murder, 1 count of sodomy, and 1 count of emasculation. He is sentenced to die in California's gas chamber. He has now been on death row for over 30 years. He has never confessed. He has never apologized. He has never offered help to a single family on his list. He plays bridge on death row with William Boone, the wrong man the public believed was him, and Lawrence Pliers Bittner. Together, they are linked to well over 100 deaths. 20 entries on Daniel Hollis's yellow legal pad remain unidentified to this day. 20 families are still waiting to learn whether their missing son's name was written in pencil on a page tucked inside a briefcase in the trunk of a 1979 Toyota Celica. If you want to understand the parallel killer who stole Daniel Hollis's reputation for a decade, the man whose van became one of the worst rolling crime scenes in American history, watch our video on William Boone and the true story behind the Freeway Killer name. Because the real history of California's freeway murders has 3 killers in it, not 1.